Carson Wentz and the Eagles took down the Cowboys yesterday 17-9. Philly just needs to beat the Giants next week to lock up an NFC East title, which means it is time to party. Check out this grandma breaking it down in the parking lot.
Oh, let me see.
Watch.
Oh, get it, old lady.
Yeah, well.
Okay. Okay. I got her as a -180 favorite against Jenna Wolf in the dance-off.
See, that's not called for.
But accurate, though. I'm taking the wagers. Look at her.
You're not a dancer, Jenna?
I am a dancer. He just doesn't like the dances that I choose. A lot of them are of the
Let's focus on this lady who actually knows what she's doing. Hey, why is this young girl getting her shot? There's all these millennials. They want their 10 seconds of fame.
Listen.
Let the old lady have it.
These guys were out there from 9:30.
Yeah, of course they were.
Partying for a 4 o'clock game. Give it up to her.
Hey, and by the way, Eagle fans, the whole world wrote you off for dead last week. I think it was just me and Shay Sharp that had your back. Are we good now from a couple years ago when I said you wasn't going to win the Super Bowl? When y'all started that bleep Nick Wright chant live in my face at the AFC Championship game? Have I paid my penance? I never got off your bandwagon. Me and this old lady here.
Who else?
What do you mean, who else?
Who chose the Eagles to go to the Super Bowl this year?
Oh, Jenna, but you abandoned them months ago.
That is
you
not
got
what
no
I
take
did.
integrity.
So
you picked them to go to the Super Bowl, and then you threw them out like.
I don't want take integrity. I just want to tell you who I picked to go to the Super Bowl.
You were picking the Cowboys last week. Oh,
that is not true
wide
at all.
receivers.
I'll give you credit.
Thank you.
That's
You wasn't here.
I'll give her credit.
Just giving it to me anyway.
It's true, though, right?
Of course it's true.
Okay.
It's documented.
Okay.
Stories to
You're
start
okay
your
in my book,
morning
even though
thing.
they're not getting to the Super Bowl.
That's neither here nor there. Hey, Ravens beat the Browns yesterday 31-15 to lock up the top seed in the AFC. Lamar was impressive again. 238 yards through the air, another 103 on the ground with 3 total touchdowns. All right, Nick, should the Baltimore Ravens now rest their starters in Week 17? Some of them are pretty banged up.
This is so tricky, Broussard, because they have a bye. Right. If they were in the position the Buffalo Bills are in, the Bills are locked into the 5 seed no matter what. I absolutely rest my starters. But because you already have a bye, you've won 11 in a row, do you really want this team, your key players, to have not 1 but 2 extra weeks off? Could get rusty before your biggest game of the year. The flip side is Lamar took a big shot.
Huge shot.
Mark Ingram's got a calf issue. Mark Andrews got banged up. So how do you weigh it, and do you weigh it all wanting to make sure your hated rivals, the Pittsburgh Steelers, don't make the playoffs? I don't. This is a tricky one to me.
I wouldn't worry about Pittsburgh if I'm them, but as you said, you mentioned the 2 players, Ingram and Andrews, who are hurt. They're definitely not playing. Okay, Ingram definitely not
What
playing.
about Lamar?
Lamar, I might play a half, but as you said, he took a shot. I thought he might get a concussion. To his credit, he got right up. Looked like the helmet hit the ball.
Yeah.
That helped protect him. But you're right, the 2 weeks is tough because we've seen teams get rusty before and then you lose. So it's a tough one, but I would play him a half.
Last night, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Bears 26-3. Mahomes scored 3 total touchdowns. But, Nick, what impressed you the most about the Chiefs last night?
Since Week 11, this Chiefs defense allowing 3 points, that's not an anomaly. The #1 scoring defense, the #1 passing defense, the #1 red zone defense, all belong to the Kansas City Chiefs since Week 11. That's 5 games. That's a third of the season. The Chiefs are showing a different pitch now because they won this game with ball control. Right. You know what I mean? They were in full control throughout. They didn't need the huge play. They still were able to make the huge play, though, like on the 3rd and 18. This Chiefs team right now, I know they're not the 1 seed, but they are so much better than the 12-4 team last year that was the 1 seed because of the defense and the addition of Terrell Suggs. You already saw him make, at least come close to making some big plays last night. So the defense would impress me.
Yeah, and to that point, I think Tyrann Mathieu it took him a little while to kind of put his imprint on this team, but he's a winner, he's a leader, he's a galvanizer, and I think that's part of why they've improved as well. Like you, I picked them to get to the Super Bowl, so I'm excited by what I'm seeing. And also, Nick, one thing that's helped the defense, you mentioned the offense, not all the big, quick scoring drives anymore. Their time of possession has gone from 29 minutes before Week 11 when they were struggling defensively to 32 minutes a game. So that keeps your defense off the field. They're more rested. So I think that's another reason they've improved.
All right, moving on. The Philadelphia Eagles beat the Cowboys yesterday despite all their injuries, despite an inconsistent season, and despite doubt about their quarterback's leadership. Carson Wentz was good, completing 78% of his passes for 319 yards. All Philly has to do now is beat the Giants next week, and they are in the playoffs. Here's Carson Wentz after the game.
Resilient team, resilient bunch. Guys just, hey, man down, next man up. And we've had that mindset, and guys just keep believing, keep fighting, keep believing. You've seen it in the last couple weeks. You saw it today. Guys never looked down and just kept going, and it was fun out there tonight.
It's disappointing, it's frustrating, but we all take responsibility. And as I said, it begins with me, and we're too talented, and we just didn't execute the way that we're capable of doing, and they did.
Broussard, we have been debating Dak versus Wentz all season, and it culminated in two 7-7 teams going out there yesterday and battling. Did what you saw yesterday put an end to the Dak versus Wentz debate?
Not at all. I'm still with Dak. Now, I think Wentz is the better physical talent. There's no question about that. He's a better passer of the football. But one win, a regular season win, over a dysfunctional Dallas Cowboys team, when you only score 17 points, is not going to convince me that you've arrived. Arrive by winning a playoff game or two, especially when a lot of your players won a Super Bowl already, a lot of your teammates. Dak Prescott has won a playoff game. Dak Prescott is 39-23 as a starter. Carson Wentz 30-24 as a starter. Dak Prescott still has a higher QBR and passer rating this year, has thrown for more yards, way more yards than Carson Wentz has. Dak Prescott has proven he is a leader of men. He is a leader. I'm not saying he's perfect. He's got a lot of room to grow. But he is a leader of men. You don't question his leadership, and neither do his teammates in that locker room. Carson Wentz, are we convinced he could go into Dallas and handle that locker room? Because he had trouble handling the locker room in Philadelphia, and I don't think it's a coincidence that when a lot of the veterans got hurt, now you got these young guys that just want to prove that they can play in the NFL following his lead. And credit to them, and somewhat discredit to the veterans who weren't following his lead. But I still have questions about the intangibles with Carson Wentz. He's been great the last few weeks. I do think he's growing in those intangibles, but I'm not convinced he could lead an Ezekiel Elliott and Amari Cooper, these big personalities that they have in Dallas, not to mention the circus atmosphere that Dak Prescott has to maneuver. So I still think it's up for debate who's the better quarterback.
Yeah, going into the year, I didn't think it was debatable. I thought it was Carson. And I understood the numbers, and I understood that Dak, over the course of their entire careers going into this season, had better numbers than Carson. A lot of that work was done Dak's rookie season when he was extraordinary and Carson Wentz was a typical rookie quarterback. Years 2 and 3, Carson was clearly the better player, but he had gotten hurt. And the question for me with Carson Wentz going into this season was, can he stay healthy for a full season? Can he win a game like this? Well, he's healthy for the full year. He just won a game like this. He was better coming out of college. That's why he was the 2nd overall pick and Dak was a 4th round pick. His peak has been higher. That's why he was on his way to winning an MVP. And Dak, his rookie year, was a contender, but not really. And since then, nowhere close. And the eye test to me has always been about Carson. What Dak has gotten credit for is winning games like this one. And in the biggest game of the year, Dak no-showed. And in the biggest game of the year, Carson Wentz, without any of his weapons, had the highest completion percentage he's had all year, the most yards per attempt he's had all year, one of his 4 highest passer ratings all year, and the 2nd most total yards he's thrown for all year in what was essentially Carson Wentz's de facto first playoff game. I know he doesn't get a playoff win for it, but if they lose, they're eliminated. And let's compare that to Dak, where Dak this year, show him against the high-quality opponents. Dak Prescott's numbers this year against projected division winners, Saints, Packers, Eagles twice, and the Patriots. That's terrible. And 2 of those touchdowns against the projected division winners came in garbage time against the Green Bay Packers in the game they were down 31-3. Dak's going to mop up the mediocre to bad teams. But this year against New Orleans, no Teddy Bridgewater when you're 3-0. 0 touchdowns, 1 pick, a 73 rating. Against Green Bay, coming off that loss, you're down 31-3, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. In New England, 0 touchdowns, 1 pick. Against Philadelphia yesterday, 0 touchdowns, a 75 passer rating. I needed Dak to prove this to me overwhelmingly this year, Chris, because my gut told me, man, when I watch these guys, one of these guys I look at and I say, that guy can be a star quarterback. Another guy I look at and I say, if everything around him's just right, he can play really well. And he's not going to kill me. And so to me, the debate won't be over for years, I'm sure. But Carson Wentz further confirmed what I already believed, which is he's the better of the two players.
See, I'm big on intangibles as a quarterback. What made Tom Brady and Joe Montana the greatest ever? The intangibles. Sure. It wasn't just the physical tools. I agree, Carson has the greater physical tools, but I think Dak clearly has the better intangibles. Now, Carson took a big step yesterday, but again, it still was a regular season game against a 7-7 team.
But look who Carson was working with, and look who Dak's been working with. Dak had his full artillery there.
Right.
Carson had guys that he had to ask who their last name was that he was throwing the ball to.
Dak had how many drop passes? 6 yesterday. Now, granted, he missed some throws too. Some high throws, some overthrows. And he had a bad shoulder too.
Shoulder all week.
Another intangible that no excuses. I go out there and I play. So I'm with you on Carson's physical ability and the eye test. But when I look at the locker room, look at the leadership, all of that, that's where I side with Dak. And I've never thought Dak was a guy that could carry a team. But when certain things are in place, I think he's a leader of men and can help you win a Super Bowl.
Just very quickly here before we move on. I understand the leadership point. But these last 3 weeks, that might be how you become a leader of men in a locker room. He hasn't been around to play December football. His rookie year, they're not any good. His second year, he gets hurt. His third year, he gets hurt. A come-from-behind win against the Giants, a come-from-behind win against Washington, and then a great win to